Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvise Sasanyavari Paschatya Satarine. Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahabandhanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauda Tishe Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangulangayate girim yakrapatam aham bande. Sri Guru Dinatarinam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shadaita Gadadhar Shivashari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. We are going to continue reading about Srila Prabhupada. I may also continue this reading offline in an effort to finish the book sooner, because if I just do it once a week, then there's 25 pages and we maybe get through one page per class, one or two maybe. Anyway, I may have some discussions with other devotees about what I'm writing, and I'm going to see if what comes out of this class is better, then we can continue. Of course, you want to continue because it's all nectar, right? Yeah, of course. Anyway, let's see what happens. Maybe last week we went faster than the first week, so that was good. Maybe that meant what I wrote was comprehensive, or maybe it meant we all went brain dead last week, or maybe a combination of both. I'm not sure, but what one of the things I'm trying to do and find out from you is, when you hear the Leela, is there more? Is there more that you want to know? Sometimes maybe the Leela is complete and you can understand there's nothing else to know. But if something comes to your mind, what more? I'd like to know more about this, or, and the more can be, just ask me, how did you feel, or what was the mood, or what was the environment like, what was the weather, These are things that I may have not always added. It's on a morning walk. I don't say that it was cold or hot or anything, just it's a morning. Because that's what makes good writing, is to add some detail, right? As we were freezing, walking on the beach, and the cold wind was blowing off the ocean, and the cold water was racing to touch our feet, Yeah, like that. I don't naturally write like that, but I might have to go back and do that. Or give it to Jamie and he'll do it. I'm kind of brass tacks. Just get to the point. What's the point? But um, I'm a little mixed. Sometimes when I read books that are really well written like that, I'm just brushing through it and I just like, tell me what happened. You know, I don't care that that it was 20 degrees below zero on the beach and we were all freezing. That's what did Prabhupada say? Yeah. So it's kind of like, I'm not sure. Um, and we all are busy. So I have to fill up the pages with all this rosy language and waste your time. I don't know. You could have better things to do. I'm not sure. Anyway, those who are like to read will say, yeah, do it. And those who just want the facts and are busy will say, don't do it. Anyway, these are decisions we have to make. So I'm just going to bring up the document and hopefully Word will tell me where we left off. Just to save a little time. Although I may have, if I've, yeah, it says welcome back. Baba, pick up where you left off. Haha, took me to the end of it because I added something to it. It's 36 pages. And this is all added on after I wrote the whole book. Okay. So I'm going to go back and figure out where we left off. Which is not that hard because I have notes on everything. So and when we start reading, um, we'll remember. Oh, we read that. We talked about the King Kong and Prabhupada saying they could have staged the moon landing like they did King Kong. And we talked about Prabhupada in the garden in Samadhi. Uh, okay, so I think I know where we left off. But this section is called Deity Installation, Los Angeles, 1970. This is embarrassing because I remember some kind of installation or something, but I can't remember. I I don't remember who was being installed and if it actually was an installation or just some bathing or something. It's it's kind of crazy. So, a little embarrassing, right?
Hare Krishna,
Anyway, yes,
please forgive me for interrupting. We went through the deity installation and we went to
we did.
the first Christmas marathon and
Yeah,
after that we
we
ended.
did the data installation. Really? Oh, yeah, you're right. That's why you exist, too, because you remember everything. We went through the first Christmas marathon, the whole thing,
Yes,
and I have no comments on it. Hmm. Let's read it again. Was it like at the last moment and we didn't have time to discuss it? Do you remember?
we went through it in quite some detail.
We did. Okay. If that's the case, I guess I should make a note when we end class where we left off. That would be an excellent idea, right? Of course. Usually Word marks where you left off, but I went and added two more things a few days ago. So it left off at the end of the document. Okay. So, um, so I have too many documents open. So just give me a second. This is weird. I have documents open, but when I open them, there's nothing in them, which is interesting. Fortunately, this document is not blank. I had two documents I just closed that are blank. And one of them, oh, that's interesting. Okay. So this next section is entitled San Diego, 1973, fully engaged. San Diego is about 120 miles south of Los Angeles and perhaps like over 200 kilometers. It's like 2 hours or so. And I was living in Los Angeles and then I moved to San Diego around this time. We have heard that swimming is a Vaishnav sport, and this was confirmed when Prabhupada came to San Diego and asked Bhaktidas, the temple president, if he were taking, hmm, if he was taking, okay, Grammarly, that's what you say. Well, Jamie will correct it later. We have heard that swimming is a Vaishnava sport, and this was confirmed when Prabhupada came to San Diego and asked Bhaktidas, temple president, if he was taking devotees daily to the beach, about a 10-minute drive from the temple to go swimming. Bhaktidas told Srila Prabhupada that we were too busy with our service to be able to go swimming daily, to be able to go swimming daily. Actually, we never went swimming. We went swimming when we moved because that temple was like, yeah, it was at least 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But then we moved 2 blocks from the temple. Then we would swim more, obviously. By asking the question, Prabhupada was indirectly suggesting that the devotee should, or at least could, swim regularly, right? Because he asked the question, are you going swimming? He, he wasn't asking the question, are you going swimming? And we would say yes, and he'd get his cane and hit us on the head. That's not why he was asking. He was like, yeah, are you going swimming? It's good, it's healthy. That's why he asked the question. But he was happy to hear we were so busy that we had little time for daily swimming. Of course, both health and service are required. And this doesn't mean Prabhupada was telling us to neglect our health. It means he appreciated that we were fully engaged. Like, yeah. Prabhupada said he wanted us to be fully engaged because he knew if we weren't, what would happen. You've heard this word Maya before? Anyone told you about Maya? Yeah, Maya would come over when there's spaces. And he talked about that a lot. Well, maybe not a lot, but he would basically say, when you ever have time, you're not engaged, and Maya would slip in. And I was listening to a lecture this morning, and Bhaktisiddhanta said that 64 rounds a day were especially not for the sannyasis, but for the grihastas. And one of the reasons is because grihastas like to talk about other grihastas. And so he said, well, if you chant 64 rounds a day, you have no time to talk prajalpa, village gossip. And it's true. And if you don't believe me, try to chant 64 rounds one day and you'll see. And someone says, Prabhu, can we talk? And you'll say, I'm sorry, I don't have time. Yeah, so that's, Prabhuji, how do I stop gossiping? Chant 64 rounds. Yeah. So anyway, this was a theme that, utilization of time. And Prabhupada said, if you ever have time, chant more or read. And one time he said, um, when you have time, you utilize it by sleeping. He was joking. He was being sarcastic. Because he knew that's what we did. Like time is valuable. Oh, I have some free time. Great, I can sleep. Did you ever have that realization? Finally, the work is done. I can go to sleep. And Prabhupada saying, yeah, the work is done. Now you have time to chant. So this was in a class. I was at the class and he was talking about, this was a theme. This, um, this like, this was a theme, space for Maya. Making space for Maya. Okay, my dear devotees, how much space do you make for Maya every day? I give her 20 minutes on Instagram. I write in, is it part of my schedule when I come back from work? 20 minutes on Instagram. Yeah. Maya and I have some fun together. Yeah. So Prabhupada was always telling us, you should be so engaged that there's no time for Maya. And, when you live in a temple, there's temple life is, you know, it's like sometimes temple life is such that you have no time for anything but service. And that's what Prabhupada wanted because he knew, he knew with free time free time means Maya time. Well, not for advanced devotees, but for us neophytes. Like if Prabhupada saw a devotee just standing around doing nothing, he would say, chant, don't just stand there. Chant, don't just stand there and do nothing. Of course, some people describe meditation as sit down and do nothing. You're so passionate doing a million things. So meditation means sit down and do nothing. That's not actually the way we look at it. We like sit down and work on your relationship with Krishna. Yeah, that's more how we see it, right? Um, so anyway, we saw that with Prabhupada because we have the Maha Mantra that means at any point in time when nothing's happening, you can whip out your beads. Okay, I have a question for you. When you finish your rounds and later in the day you go out, do you bring your beads or no? Or you say, I don't need my beads because I finished my rounds. Like, that's not good. So, as we know, Prabhupada gave us 16 rounds, but Prabhupada often said, 16 rounds minimum. And then 16 on the beads, unlimited off the beads. I just heard something today, quite interesting. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati sometimes would consider service as japa. Oh, they're not chanting 64 rounds. They're serving all day. They're chanting all day. And sometimes he would consider kirtan as japa. Well, they're doing kirtan all day. They've chanted more than 64. So, so the idea was always be engaged, always be chanting. So, you know that story I've told before? Um, Bhaktisiddhanta asked his disciples to collect money for a project, and they collected it. Who remembers this story? Raise your hand if you remember this story. Only one. No? He said, go collect money for a project. And when they collected, he used the money for another project. You remember, Chaitanya, this story? Yeah. He used the money for another project. They didn't know that. So then he asked them to collect money for the project they already collected for. And he said, then he told them, he said, "Oh, I spent that on another project. Go collect for this." And, you could imagine they're like, huh? Why'd you do that? And his point was, no, it's good. We should always have projects for you to collect for. So, otherwise you just sleep. That's the basic idea. Uh, anyway, I think you understand that having free time can be dangerous. Have you had that experience? And we only have so much time left in this body, and most devotees would think it's probably not enough time to be Krishna conscious, so I probably shouldn't waste time. Because have you ever been late? Like like you're going on a trip and you have to pack and someone wants to talk to you. It's like, don't talk to me, I'm packing, I'm late. I got to concentrate. So our life should be something like that, right? Like we're packing for a trip, I don't have time, just focus, no time to waste. So, in Prabhupada, he didn't like wasting time. That's why he didn't like sleeping. You know that? He didn't like sleeping. He really didn't like it. I mean, we all like to sleep because when you're tired, if you don't sleep, then you can't function. But even though Prabhupada had to sleep, he hated it. He said it's a waste of time. You know, you put your head down, and the next thing you know, almost a third of a day has passed. Like, what a waste. You could have, you could have utilized that time in doing service, right? So that's why he hated it. And I think Prabhupada knew we were experts at wasting time. Actually, the whole time before we were devotees, it was all wasted time. So we had practice, right? We knew how to waste time because that's all we did. Let's have some fun. Yeah, waste time, kill time. Let's kill some time. Like we have time to kill, right? No, I don't think so. If you have time to kill, that means time is killing you. We have no time to kill. Okay. So I think that's clear. Any questions on this or comments? You know that verse? Ayurvedati by punsam ujanashtancha yonaso. With every second canto. With every rising and setting of the sun, another day is lost. Sounds like a song, right? With every rising and setting of the sun, another day is gone. But for a devotee, it's different. That verse says, not a day is lost, not for a devotee, because we're on the path of eternity. Beautiful. Okay. Ayor is like Ayurveda. Ayor, I think it's Harati. Harati means taken away. Life is taken away. Udyan Ashtancha Yonash, by the rising setting of the sun. But not for devotees. Chaitanya Dasi is looking for it. Second canto. Does So, Dharma, you're asking, is there more to the pastime of the Christmas marathon? Yeah, there is. That was the first Christmas marathon, which established the Christmas marathons forever. Yeah. Ayor harati vaipun sam udyan ashtan chayana so tasyarte yat chano nitya uttama shloka vartaya. Both by rising and setting. How do you get the diacritics in there? Wow, you're especially empowered. Both by rising and setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. There you go, my dear devotees. You don't die. The rising and setting of the sun for you is just a chance to do service. Uh, uh, mm. So, Gabriel says, free time for me is rare. Yeah, if you have children, yeah, time is not free. Time is expensive. Yesterday with my son, we did clothes and jewelry for Krishna. We listened to audiobooks, read Bhagavatam, and we felt so much engaged in bhakti. It's family, not distracted. Setting a bhakti service routine and family helps so much. Also, the mercy of having the deities at home changed. All beautiful, fantastic. Mm. Amiani says, don't leave home without your bead bag. You know those commercials, never leave home without it? Like your, you know, Capital One credit card, never leave home without it, whatever your local credit card is in your country. They have a commercial in the United States. I don't know what credit card it is. American Express, Capital One. Never leave home without it. So I've always turned that into your bead bag. Never leave home without it. Of course, if you have your tongue, you can chant, or your clicker, your clicker, click, click, Hare Krishna, click, click, Hare Krishna. But we'll just stick with your bead bag. Never leave home without it. Yeah, Hare Krishna. Okay. Um, hmm, hmm. Okay. I'm not going to read all the comments because I'm trying to speed through and just stay focused. So don't feel upset if I don't read it, but um, I want to stay relevant to what I'm talking about. Okay. So the next section is called Morning Walk in Balboa Park. Balboa Park is a park in San Diego. This is also 1973. The San Diego Temple was a few blocks from Balboa Park, a huge historic park which hosted the 1935 California Pacific International Exposition. And if you don't know about the 1935 California International Exposition, consider yourself fortunate. It's just nothing you need to know about. Additional structures and landscaping were added to the park over the years, including the old Globe Theater, International Cottages, and Spanish Village, all of which are still in use today. So there was a huge expanse of land with fountains and beautiful structures, a mix of Spanish, colonial, and Mediterranean architecture. So now you have some idea of how nice the park was. And I was on this walk. This is where Srila Prabhupada took his morning walks because it was only a few blocks from the temple, so that was natural. One Rishi asked Srila Prabhupada, is this park like Vrindavan? Here's the actual quote. Does this remind you of Vrindavan, Prabhupada? Hmm? Is this like Vrindavan? Prabhupada. Vrindavan is different. This is man-made. Devotee. Is this like Dwarka? When Krishna was living in Dwarka, they had Prabhupada. Yes, Dwarka. Yes. Vrindavan trees are all full of fruits and flowers. These are for fuel. These meaning the ones in the park, these trees. Of course, nobody cooks with wood anymore, so or heats their homes with wood. So, of course, in 1973, none of us on the walk had either been to Vrindavan or Dwarka. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being in the Hare Krishna movement and out of the whole movement, there's like 40 devotees that had been to Vrindavan? Like, that's basically, it'd be kind of rare to even meet them because most of them didn't come back. They just stayed. So there's a whole Hare Krishna movement, and basically no one's been to the holy dhams. Wow, hard to imagine. Mm. I'm just going to make a note. But that was just normal. I went to India. That's normal. Okay. Um, I'm just making a note here. There's a photo of me with Prabhupada and some other devotees that was posted a while back. And that's on this walk. Have any of you seen it? I don't know if you would know it. It's right in, maybe I can find it. I'm not good at saving photos, to be honest. But there's a photo. It's about seven of us, eight of us, with Prabhupada on the street. And he's just coming back to the temple. And that's from this morning walk. So that picture will be in the book. Okay. Of course, in 1973, none of us on the walk had been either to Vrindavan or Dwarka. But it was interesting that a park like this looked like a city in Vedic times. Srimad Bhagavatam describes that in cities like Dwarka, no matter where you are in the city, you can see ponds with lotus flowers and swans, meaning that these cities were designed in a way that nature was visible everywhere. Balboa Park is exactly like that. So that was so cool because they have lotus flowers there. Any of you been to Balboa Park? Chaitanya Leela and Chilanyatra, you been there? Yeah. So yeah, it's so there's this big park and big expanse and these beautiful like Mexican Greek style buildings and it's just really nice. And to walk through that park and imagine that's like a street in a city. It's like wow, like the whole city looked like that. That's amazing. And um, the reason cities look like that, so people would be in goodness, because cities are generally passionate. Isn't that interesting? I mean, you ever been to a crowded city? Of course you have. How do you feel? Any of you been to Calcutta before? As soon as you get to Calcutta, you become suicidal. It's so hellish. Same in Mumbai, same in Delhi, you know. It's like you was like, could I just leave my body? You know, could someone else do my business here and I could leave my body? It's so crowded. It's so hot or it's so cold. The air is so polluted. Um, and as we all know, in these crowded cities, it's disturbing to the mind. It's like all cement. There's not a lot of nature. So Vedic design of cities is, it keeps you peaceful. Everywhere you look, you can see some park. You could see a swan. You imagine you're walking downtown London and you look this way, there's a pond and swans. You look this way, there's fruit trees. You look that way, it's a big lawn. It's like everywhere you look, you see nature. It'd be so nice, wouldn't it? Shanti, shanti. And now everywhere you go, you see buildings and cars and people running madly to go shopping. Here's my theory. If cities, if cities were um, more sattvic, people would do less shopping and just want to hang out in the parks. Because shopping, shopping is like, it's just you shop because you're empty and bored, right? Let's go shopping. Nothing else to do. Yeah. Let's go buy something that we don't need. So it's kind of an emptiness. Walk around the city. What are you going to do in a big city? When I was a kid, we lived, yeah, we lived maybe 3 miles from Beverly Hills, maybe less than 3 miles, 2.5. So, it was like 10, yeah, 10 minutes we were in Beverly Hills from our house. We lived in a place called Beverly Wood. So Beverly Wood was just south of Beverly Hills. You all know about Beverly Hills. And every once in a while, my parents would, they would go, they'd take us to Beverly Hills to a restaurant. And after the restaurant, they'd walk up the street. And in those days, at night, all the stores were closed because in those days, people were like a little more sane than they are today. So stores actually closed like 5 or 6, and they'd go home and, they'd actually be home with their families because everything was closed. There's like, you couldn't do anything at night because nothing was open. At least most things were closed. So they would walk up and down. You heard of Rodeo Drive? Is that famous? Rodeo Drive. Yeah. If you're from India, you haven't heard of Rodeo Drive. You probably have your own Rodeo Drives, but Rodeo Drive is like where all the shops are in Beverly Hills. And you can imagine because it's Beverly Hills, these are like high-end shops. And I think a lot of these shops only exist there. So if you ever go there, you better dress up nice because if you don't look rich, they may not talk to you. They may not even look at you, right? Chulin, Yacher. They're like, who are you? So, so they used to walk up and down the street and go window shopping. You know what window shopping is? Any of you ever done? It's everything's closed and you just look in the windows. So that's like, it's just like it's the Yuga Dharma in Kali Yuga, shopping. And shopping is, and so that's my theory that if the cities were nicer, people would do less shopping. I can't go in Harinam. How come? Because I have to do my Yuga Dharma shopping. I've only got one garage filled up. I still have space to fill up the other one with junk. Let's go shopping. New spring fashions are out. Have you got your spring fashions? Yeah. Everybody's wearing this. Yeah. It's sick, isn't it? They're exploiting the earth growing cotton just to make new fashion. It's really sick. When I first was married, we lived in a motorhome. And in Europe, I think you call them caravans. We call them motorhomes. It's like a little it's like a tiny home on wheels, basically. And I loved it. And the reason I loved it is there was no place to put anything. So it was like you couldn't buy anything because you had no place for it. Your closet's like this big. You could barely get, 2 quarters and a sweater in it. So where's the question of buying more? Like, what am I going to do with it? And we had a container on top for extra stuff. So you got to climb up a ladder, go on top to get another quartet. I don't think so. So I loved it. But my wife didn't love it as much as I did. In fact, she made a solemn vow after we sold it. She made a solemn vow that I will never, ever in this life live in a motorhome. And I'm happy to tell you, I'm proud of her. She has kept that vow to this very day. And she said, I was so stupid you convinced me to live in that. Well, it was rent free, so can't argue with that. So um yeah. Okay, so that's my theory on shopping. On the way back, so we've gone to so you visualize that you go out the front door of the temple, you turn left and you walk like one, two, maybe like 3 blocks, 3.5, and that's where the park is. We're very close. That's like, prestige to live near Balboa Park. And then we walk back, and on the way back, we pass by a trophy shop. Trophies look like deities, and Prabhupada spontaneously said we should inquire whether they can make deities. I don't know if he was serious. It seems no one thought so because, to my knowledge, no one ever inquired about the shop. Um, in fact, I called the temple president. Well, I wrote him and he said, I didn't even, I guess he said, I wasn't even on that walk. I didn't even know what Prabhupada asked. So he said, no, no one ever inquired about the shop making deities. I just took it like, I took it, well, I'll just read. It explains it. But it does show how everything reminds Prabhupada of Krishna, and he sees how everything can be used in his service, even trophies. So that's how I took it. I just took like Prabhupada's, like everything he sees is like, can you use that for, how do you use that for Krishna? It was kind of instructive, I think. But maybe he was serious. But nobody took it seriously. So, my dear devotees, the instruction still remains. Go to a deity shop and ask them if they, go to a trophy shop and ask if they make a deity. Wouldn't that be interesting? They're like, oh yeah, we can do this, no problem. And you give them some deities and they mold it and it's like perfect. And it's, after 60 years, like we're all beating ourselves in the head and like, why didn't we ever do this? Why do we have to go to India, get deities? We can just get them right around the corner at the trophy shop. You could start a whole business. Ishan, you could make money selling Radha Krishna trophies. Of course, yeah, anyway, it's funny. Wouldn't that be funny if someone actually did that and found out it was cheaper? It's like, oh, Prabhupada was serious. And none of us, like, we were all too stupid to, like, figure it out. Ishan's going to figure it out. When you come back to Canada or the United States, Ishan, then you can go to a trophy shop and say, you think you could make one of these? Probably it would be expensive because it would be a one-off, but if they were making lots, I'll make Gordy tie. Um, hmm, we can make Gordy tie and we can distribute them on Sankirtan. So, do you know, Prabhupada said distribute Gordy tie on Sankirtan? How many of you have heard that? Prabhupada said you make little Gordy tie and you go on Sankirtan and you distribute them and tell people, keep these dolls in your house, they'll make you happy. How many? Raise your hand. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Gornitai is so merciful. You can just like go up to someone on the street. Hey, your whole house will be transformed. You just put these dolls on. Just put them somewhere in your living room, on your bookshelf, and just say hello to them every day. And wow. So when Ishan comes to America, he's going to inquire about making dolls, Gornitai dolls at the local trophy shop. Of course, now they could go to China and have them made out of plastic, right? Gold-plated plastic, fake gold-plated. Well, you can figure it out in China. Yeah, then he'll have them made at trophy shop, and then he'll find out the trophy shop's having it made in China. So it's too expensive to make in America. Well, maybe now with the tariffs, it's equal. I don't know. Okay, that is amazing to meditate on. Prabhupada wanted us to distribute Gaura-Nitai, and that is not something anyone's doing. Who's distributing Gaura-Nitai in Sankirtan? Anybody? I don't think so. So that's a whole thing, especially in like places like in India, Singapore, England, India, Singapore, Malaysia, Mauritius, UAE, where there's lots of Indians who could just be going door to door, knock knock. We have your Gaura-Nitai here. My guru said everyone should have one in their house. It's only like $20. How many do you want? That's sales. Sales is not like, do you want one? It's how many. Sales is how many should I get out of my car for you? Yeah, how many friends do you have you want to give them to? Are you Hindu? Yeah. Oh, my guru said every Hindu should have Gaura-Nitai. It'll bring you happiness, prosperity, and they're seeing dollar signs, and we're thinking it'll bring you the prosperity of love. But whatever, um, and get attached to Gaura-Nitai. Wouldn't that be amazing? Should start a whole program. Ishan's going to manufacture 10,000 Gaura-Nitais. And he's going to call all the GBC in all these countries and go, this is the program. Here's the lines. Here's the Sankirtan line. How many should I ship to you? Every Gaura-Nitai in every home in the UAE. Every home of every Hindu in Dubai should have a Gaura-Nitai. A home in every Hindu in India. Well, you have to print a, you're going to do a lot. You need like 500,000 Gaura-Nitais for India, right? Hare Krishna. That would be cool. Okay. Mhm. Yeah, okay. So any questions on that? Yeah. So if you go to San Diego, go for a walk in Balboa Park and you can think of Prabhupada. And if I go to San Diego, I'll take you on the route of the walk. And I can tell you pretty much exactly where this conversation took place. I remember it. Um, so I have a question about rest and recreation. So, okay. Well, Chaitanya Dasi, when you go to San Diego, you can go swimming because Prabhupada said it's okay. I don't know if he said it's okay to go swimming in Croatia. I mean, like, but he said it was okay in San Diego. So I'm imitating a fanatic in case you don't recognize that. They have an ocean in Croatia, so it's bona fide. You can go swimming in the ocean in Croatia. And while you're swimming out around the ocean, you could be thinking, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting, Prabhupada to be happy if I wasn't swimming. Yeah. Um, but as you know, Prabhupada went on a walk every day, stay in shape. So you got to do something. The body is the only machine that gets better by using it. All other machines get worse by using it. The body gets better by using it, right? So if you're over 32, you have full realization of the body breaking down. No, you don't have full realization. You have a little realization. And it's like an old car. A car runs for like 3, 4 years. You can neglect it. But, after 4 or 5 years, like new tires, new shock absorbers, new brake pads, replace this, spark plugs. So, when you're over 32, that, yeah. So it's just a reality. Um, mm, mhm. Okay. Yeah, you can distribute pictures of anytime. Yeah, why not? Someone in India makes very inexpensive Courtney tie, or China or something. Okay. Anything else? Question on this? You can also unmute and ask a question about this, not about this, so I could write more about this. If you give me a second, I might be able to find that photo, although it's on my phone.
Provides, satisfying all of our needs.
How would I get from my phone to our Zoom? I'm just gonna, if I were smart, I would have already saved it on my computer. I usually send my photos to some devotees to keep. I don't see it. Guess I'm not smart. I am smart. It's under downloads. I'm going to try to show it to you. I don't know. How do I get it from my phone to this Zoom conference? Is there a way to do it?
I send you the Zoom link to your WhatsApp so you can just click on it.
Say that again in English.
Sorry. I send you the link on your WhatsApp.
Oh, so I can click it and share it? Oh, you sent me a link, but it's the link for the Zoom. I'm already on it. I'm trying to get this picture. Anyway, let me see if I can show you the picture.
Nice driving, dude.
Gurudev, you could just send it to your share it,
I
airdrop
could,
it to your computer. Airdrop it to the computer and then you can share your screen.
okay. Wow, you're so smart. It's not that you're smart, it's just I'm too old to figure this out. Yeah. I would have figured it out eventually, but it might have been after the class. Okay. So I've shared it to my WhatsApp. And so in theory, I thought I shared it to my WhatsApp, but let's see. No, I have oh, okay. Okay. So now I can share my screen and we'll get to see it. Fantastic. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, blast off. There it is. Can you see my pointer or no? Yes?
Yes, we can see.
See that, devotee? Guess who that is?
You are the
Of course, there's Prabhupada. There's a temple president, Bhakti Das. This is a devotee named Vishareda. This is a devotee named Ruchi, who's left his body. Way in the back is a devotee named Kusakrata, who's left his body, who translated many, many books. And that's me all puffed up. I look so proud there, like I'm walking with Srila Prabhupada, don't mess with me. And this devotee here, Atreya Rishi, he's the one who asked Prabhupada the question. And this building two on what you see over here, this is the temple. It's not the main entrance, it's the back. It's like a porch area here, and the entrance is, you can't see the entrance. And the park is behind us. And you see that yellow bus? You see that? That's a big bus that the devotees traveled in. And on the side of the bus, it said like, buy Krishna book. They had a big advertisement for a Krishna book on the bus. And they traveled. It was the first one of the first real traveling Sankirtan parties. And that was the party that was the first party to ever do plain clothes, take off their dhotis and saris. And there's a story about that in here. So that's the picture. Ta-da, ta-da. I think I should copy that picture and I can just put it in the document. I'm starting to put pictures in this document. Yeah, we've got the picture in the document. What a great fortune that every once in a while someone sends me a picture. And there I am with Prabhupada. It's like, whoa, Hare Krishna. I'm still waiting there's one picture I saw once, and I don't know where it is, but mm, 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 mm. So, yeah, devotees asking, I'm not bold enough to go on Sankirtan. Yeah, push yourself. This is San Diego Temple. Yeah. Yeah, just go out. Yeah, because go out and, just go out. And someone's going to say, thank you for sharing. You get Krishna's mercy if you go out, for sure. Okay. So, yes. So, somebody, when they read this story, is going to go to a trophy shop. All right. This next one is quite a famous story if you've been around ISKCON for a while, at least in America. But seeing that so many devotees don't live in America and so many devotees haven't been around a while, I suspect that not all of you have heard this story. Are you ready for the next story? This is that we're still in San Diego. Family restrictions. We can't go out in Sankirtan. Just take books with you wherever you go. Take a few books. You take the train, you can do Sankirtan on the train. You want to hear something funny? This'll inspire you, Ishan. So I was a Sankirtan devotee for many years, and I was like addicted to Sankirtan. I just love to go out and give mercy and get mercy by giving mercy. And so we have a holiday called St. Patrick's Day. Well, not just we in America. I'm sure it originates in England. So, people celebrate St. Patrick and everything's green and four-leaf clovers. You have that in India, St. Patrick's Day. And they have a parade. They have, Prime Minister has seen it. You have St. Patrick's Day parade in New York, right? It's a big thing. Yes? Julian Yatra. Or she was so detached, she didn't even know about it. That's a big thing. So for Sankirtan at that time, we were we would approach people with candy. We'd give someone a candy and then give them a book, just a way to stop them. Excuse me, here's you. So we had little green candies. So for St. Pat. And so it so happened that the first time I went to India, we were flying to India. It must have been on St. Patrick's Day or the day after. And I had all these green candies. So in the middle of the flight, I just got up and went down the aisle and started doing Sankirtan, giving out green candies and asking for donations. Like whatever, it's just Sankirtan. Plane or no plane, People are people, wherever they're sitting. So the moral of the story is every place in the universe is a Sankirtan spot if you have a book. So, you can distribute one book every day, Ishan, to the person sitting next to you. And you could tell them, my guru said, I should give one book every day to the person sitting next to me. And you're sitting next to me, so it's your lucky day. And Ishan's going to say, but I have to chant my rounds on the, I have to chant my bad rounds on the train. All right, so chant one less bad round and give him a book. Hare Krishna. Yeah, okay. The thing about book distribution is you get mercy because it's so dear to Prabhupada. So you might think, oh, this person's not interested, whatever. Who knows? Who knows what the world's going to be like? Who knows who's going to be interested? But Prabhupada's pleased. So Prabhupada's pleased, you give him a book, everything's good. Right? But he'll never read it. But Prabhupada's pleased. That's all, Prabhupada's pleased. As long as you didn't disturb him, disturb his mind trying to get a book. So if you disturb their mind, they won't read the book. Okay. So this is titled, Don't Walk Over Krishna, San Diego, 1973. This story is quite well known, but since I was there when it happened, I will describe it. In our enthusiastic ignorance, we decided to paint the Maha Mantra on the vertical portion of the stairway entrance to the temple. So this portion, you have stairs like this and like this. So I called this part the vertical portion. So you step on the step, you walk to the next step, and then there's a portion in between the steps. I call that the vertical portion. Is there a better way to describe that than the vertical portion? Because vertical just means up. And it's also horizontal and vertical. So where the one on the bottom, I call it horizontal because it doesn't go up. Someone have a better word for that? Is there like an official word for that part of a stairway? The part between the two steps. Anyway, I'll make a note. Maybe there's a better word. Can someone Google that and ask Google what it says?
Hare Krishna. So
You got
Dharma
it?
Prabhu writes that it's rise.
A rise. It's called a rise? Well, there's a problem though. How many of you knew it was called a rise? Raise your hand. One. So if I call it a rise, everyone's not going to know. Maybe I could say the portion that rises up between the two steps is called a rise. And if you don't learn anything from this book on Prabhupada, at least you'll learn that much. So it was worth reading, right? Hare Krishna. Okay. So in our enthusiastic ignorance, we decided to paint the Maha Mantra on the vertical portion of the stairway entrance to the temple building, and I can say called the rise. That means every day, misspelled by yours truly. That means every day we were walking over Krishna in the form of his holy name. Prabhupada taught us that Krishna is none different from his name, but we didn't fully understand. Prabhupada also taught us Shastra is none different from Krishna. Prabhupada also taught us that Shastra is none different from Krishna, but sometimes we put a book on the floor, on something dirty or upside down. We might do the same thing with sacred pictures. You know that story? Story of the book cover? Prabhupada was given a book. Prabhupada was given a kind of like a book cover. Who knows that story? Devotee made a book cover like a cloth. I don't know if it was a book cover or it was just nice cloth. Prabhupada said, "What's it for?" And devotee said, "Well, Prabhupada, when you put your book on the floor, you don't have to put it on the floor, you put it on the cloth," because some devotees were putting it on the floor during class. Prabhupada said, "I don't put my book on the floor. You put your book on the floor. I don't." Oh, was that devotee embarrassed? He was humbled in front of everyone. This was because he gave the gift at a darshan. And he thought Prabhupada was going to say, "Thank you so much. This is the best gift I've ever gotten. You are amazing." Instead, he said, "I don't put my book on the floor." Like the polite way of saying, "What the hell is wrong with you that you would give your guru something? You think he puts his book, Krishna, on the floor?" So Prabhupada taught us not only Bhagavatam, he taught us that nothing should go on the floor, except, of course, your feet. Which is why if anything you touch with your feet, feet's like not a good place for putting things on. So, except for shoes. So you don't touch books. You don't put your books on the floor. If you do, you touch it to your head like that. So Prabhupada taught us that, but we kind of blew it, missed it. When Prabhupada saw the Mahamantra painted on the stairway entrance, he said he could not step over Krishna to enter the temple. He was not mad at us. He always appreciated the enthusiasm and motive of the devotees. But we got the message without him having to say more. The devotees brought Prabhupada through the rear entrance of the temple and then immediately painted over the Mahamantra to rectify the mistake. Like when Prabhupada was giving class, they painted it. So class was finished. So the Prabhupada could use the main entrance. Nothing more was said about it. How many? Raise your hand if you heard that story before. Really? I guess that's well known only in the United States and only amongst Prabhupada disciples. So anyway, that's interesting. I thought, I don't even know if I should put this story in there. Everybody knows about it. And that's why I said it's well known, but I'll tell it because I saw it. So it's not like secondhand. Anyway, Carlos is raising his hand, which means he heard the story, probably from me. So that's not fair. If you've heard the story, but you heard it from me, then it's like, well, that doesn't give us a broad sample for statistical research, does it? Okay. Anyway, you don't want to walk over Krishna, even his name. You don't want to put anything sacred nothing sacred on the nothing sacred should be mistreated. Let's say that. So, not on the floor. Don't touch it with your feet. Not upside down. One time Prabhupada saw his picture, it was upside down. They were cleaning. He was upset. He remarked, "Yeah, this is not good. Guru is being disrespected." Isn't that interesting? So, like you have a picture of Prabhupada and you pile 6 books on top. Not a good idea. And that picture should be upright somewhere. Yeah. Hare Krishna. I was just given a hand drawing of Srila Prabhupada. You want to see it? It's really nice. Okay, hold on. But then if I go get it, I can take a picture of it. Wait a second. Now you know where I hide my key. It's in my office. If this video gets out, then someone's going to come in. I'm going to have to move my key. So, it's not, the lighting is bad because there's plastic on it, but you'll still get to see what a nice drawing it is. I just have to share it. It was just given to me a few days ago. Unfortunately, the lighting is bad, but you'll get an idea. Isn't that a nice drawing? And it's on the sound insulation against the far wall. My computer is in front of that. Jai Prabhupada. So Prabhupada's blessing me. As I often joke, and Prabhupada, they had a problem with the microphone. And Prabhupada said, when you buy something, you should buy the best. And so I took that seriously. So I bought a lot of good microphones. Hare Krishna. Okay. So now back to the story. Yeah. So that's the main. So the main idea is that anything which is sacred has to be kept sacred and non-different. It's non-different from Krishna. Yeah, we don't see it. We don't see it as non-different. So we don't treat it properly all the time. One time the devotees were circumambulating Tulsi and they were brushing into Tulsi, and Prabhupada said, don't brush into Tulsi. So Tulsi is a pure devotee. You imagine, there's some great pure devotee and you're doing kirtan and you bang into him when you're dancing around. You would understand that's not right. So Tulsi is a pure devotee. And she said, and sometimes when you circumambulate, you might brush into her. I said, don't. So we sometimes take things for granted. And whenever I see devotees, like they offer water and then they touch Tulsi, I'm always thinking, I don't know. I don't know if that's, proper. Okay. So we're still in San Diego. It's again 1973. Oh, you had some comments? How do we approach newcomers? 1,000,008 rules to follow. Don't touch this. Don't sit like that. Oh, so we can make a video. Some guest walks into the temple, right? And they don't take their shoes off because they don't know. And they take their first step and you're like, take your shoes off. You can't go in the temple with your shoes on. It's like, okay. And then they take their shoes off and you go, now wash your hands. You touched your shoes are dirty. Okay. Yeah. Then we say, are you hungry? Yeah. And then we give them prasad and they put out their left hand. They go, not your left hand, your right hand. So, just on and on. Like, yeah. We do have a lot of rules, don't we? Prabhupada didn't introduce a lot of rules in the beginning. Do you know that the first initiates didn't even know what the four regulative principles were before they got initiated? They found out after the initiation. Oh, and by the way, could you imagine you get initiated? Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you there are four principles you have to follow now. That's actually what happened. Isn't that crazy? I guess Prabhupada was like, okay, let's just get them in the door, get them to sign up for the university. Then we'll tell them how hard it's going to be later. So these are the first initiates. I just wanted to get things moving. Yeah. Prabhupada felt that, if you want to attract intelligent people, you can't present Krishna consciousness as a bunch of rules. It's not going to work. Come to the Hare Krishna movement. If you like, big billboard, over the temple in Croatia, big sign. If you like rules, we got rules. Come in. They got more rules than you could ever follow. If you like rules, this is the place for you. And how many young people like rules? I like one rule, no rules. Yeah, that's the rule they like the most. So, yeah. Um, mm. Yeah, some rules are like, to not put anything sacred on the floor. That's important. And it's also, if someone had their book on the floor, you say, if you don't mind, could you put your book on the lap? Because it's holy, it's sacred. We try to, like, okay. It's not, it's not that a lot of rules are difficult to understand. You just have to explain it and not scream at them. And then they eat prasadam with their left hand. They're like, oh my God, you're such a yavana malecha. You're touching with your left hand. Then they go to the toilet and they clean themselves with their right hand. Oh my God, use your right hand in the toilet. It's just like unlimited. We could have a Bhakta Bozo video, Bhakta Bozo correcting a guest. It would be so funny, right? Um, yeah. Uh, mm, yeah. Like John Yatra says, some things are Indian customs. They're not part of bhakti. So I'm going to make a note of that. That was a good point. We can talk about that in the book. Oh, we're not about rules, we're about bhakti, but some of the rules help the bhakti, right? But, it's a bit overwhelming when you're first a devotee, because after a while, did you ever have this experience? After a while, it was like, I'm afraid to walk because I don't know if it's the left foot first or the right foot. And what if I move my left arm when my right leg is moving and it's, that could like be an inauspicious omen. And then, it could start raining blood over my house. And like, what do I do now? And so then we create all these like psychopaths, we've created, like neurotic psychopaths, who are afraid to like do anything because they're malechas and they do everything wrong. That wasn't ever like that with Prabhupada. There was, there's so many things going wrong, and sometimes devotees would tell Prabhupada and he'd say, yeah, I know. He didn't say anything. Sometimes. You know about the onion story? Now, if I tell you the story, you're going to start eating onions. Maybe I shouldn't tell you. Okay. Raise your hand if you know the onion story. Only one. Two. Yeah. I actually heard it from I've heard it from many devotees. I think all the devotees, most devotees who tell the story were there, and I heard it. I heard it personally from a devotee who was there. And I don't know the background, but the person whose house they went to, it seems that Prabhupada was very concerned about encouraging them, and perhaps they were doing some important service or were going to support some project or something, but he was very concerned about not disturbing them. So sometimes even with his own disciples, sometimes he just didn't feel like saying something that they were doing wrong for whatever reason. Either that they would be disturbed, it's not that important. If I tell this devotee, I have to tell 10,000 devotees because they all do it wrong, like that. So they were eating at these people's home, and all of a sudden the devotee takes a bite and it's like, oh my Govinda, it's onions. Of course, maybe in the back of their mind they're thinking, wow, these taste good. I don't know. Haven't had onions since I joined ISKCON. So, but they were like very concerned. So, Prabhupada, there's onions. And Prabhupada's just like, don't say anything, just eat it. But Prabhupada, there are onions. He said, Prabhupada said something. Yes, this sabji tastes very good. Just eat it. He didn't want, to discourage. I don't know why it was awkward to discourage these people or that they would get discouraged. It's like, oh no, you've ruined the whole prep. Because even if you take out all the onions, it's like onion shakti in the sabji, Now what's going to happen? We're all going to go into the mode of ignorance because we're eating onions, or we're going to go into mode of passion. As if we aren't already there, It's like, Prabhu, I eat onions and garlic. How come? They put you in passion and ignorance. They don't put me in passion and ignorance. I'm already there. How could they put me there? It's like, so you could, sometimes we are so tamasic that we don't even notice something's tamasic, right? Like, I'm so tamasic that you walk into my house and you're like, oh my God, it's so disorganized. I'm like, really? It's disorganized? It's always like this. Is there another way? I don't know, because I'm always tamasic, So anyway, so Prabhupada didn't stop. In that situation, he didn't stop anybody. He said, just eat it. He didn't want to discourage them. Go, we can't eat what you offer to us because it's not to our standard. Of course, if it had meat, it would be different. But I guess he just felt that these people were so much wanted to please the devotees that Prabhupada didn't want to say anything that would discourage them. That's the onion story. Now, Prabhupada is not, it's like sometimes devotees write me and say, sometimes I have to go to family gathering and they're serving onions and there's nothing to eat that doesn't have onions in it. So what should I do? And I said, well, bring your own food. No, I can't do that. It'll offend everybody. So it's like, okay, well, eating onions is not like eating meat. It's just a tamasic food. Eating a lot of chilies is totally rajas. Nobody complains about that. If you're going to complain about eating a lot of onions and garlic and mushrooms, and well, complain about eating a lot of chili. Kind of, same category. So it's not like sinful. It's just, it could be not the best thing for your consciousness, but what can you do? Sometimes you have to. It's rare, and maybe for most devotees, that's a rare situation. But some devotees thought it was like sinful. It's not. Guru Maharaj, I committed a great sin. I'm so embarrassed. What did you do? There was onions in the sabji. All right, okay, just don't avoid it as far as possible. It's not a sin. So anyway, this story is not authorization for eating onions. And then, I want to be on a program where we can get invited to people's homes because eventually someone's going to use onions and then I can eat them because I love them. That's not the mood. Hare Krishna. Sudharma, do we have to take something when someone gives something and says it's prasadam? If it's Mahaprasadam, you should take a little bit. If it's just prasadam, maybe you'll offend them if you don't take. And if you don't want to take Sudharma, you can say, my doctor has forbidden me to eat sugar. Dr. Mahatma has forbidden me to eat sugar, so I can't take. Who's your doctor? Oh, it's my guru. He said, don't eat sugar. Hare Krishna. Yeah, we should do that for initiations of Indians. No meat eating, no meat, fish, or eggs, or sugar. Oh God, I'd have no disciples in India if I said that. But the ones who could follow would be a lot healthier, that's for sure. Right. Coconut sugar, that's okay. You can do that. No refined sugar. Could you imagine? Wow. Mahaprabhu, why did you say that? And I said, because if you eat too much sugar, it's intoxicating. That's why I said it. Did you know that? It's intoxicating if you eat too much sugar. If you don't believe me, after class, eat 10 gulab jamuns. And I would say in an hour after you eat them, you're going to be telling a lot of jokes and laughing. Yeah, it's intoxicating. For sure. Especially if you never eat sugar and you eat a lot. Yeah. So maybe we have to add that to the list. No intoxications, including tea and too much sugar. Hare Krishna. Can we read books while sitting on the bed if the books don't touch the bed? Do we have to take something when someone gives us prasadam? Yeah. Mahaprasadam is like, if it's not part of your diet, you take a little bit, or sometimes we do seafood. You know about seafood? We eat seafood. It means you eat it with your eyes. You go, that's beautiful. I can't eat it, but I appreciate it. So that's seafood. And if you just do seafood, you don't get fat and you don't get diabetes. So, but generally, if it's maha prasadam, it's like you don't want to do seafood, but maha. You take at least, if it's not part of your diet, take a little drop, something, because you should respect it. But when, everybody's like, I just came back from Govardhan, I have prasadam, and I'm like, where'd you get it? Oh, from some shop on the path. I'm like, okay, no thanks. So it's, all prasadam is not made equal. So when someone comes back from the Dham and says, I brought back prasadam, ask them, is this, well, like in Mayapur, everything's Mahaprasadam, right? Everything they cook is called Mahaprasadam. But there is Maha that actually goes on the plate. So, ask them, is this from the plate? I go, no, Prabhu, it's Mahaprasadam. We bought it at the stall, along with the other 48,000 sweet balls. That's Mahaprasadam. That's, maybe if it's not part of your diet, you could say thank you. But Dr. Mahatma said, no sugar for me. But if it's actually maha off the plate, you should eat it with something. Of course, it's up to you whether you want to eat the other. It's maha in the sense that, that preparation did go on the plate, but technically what you're eating wasn't on the plate. So technically it's not considered maha, as they say in Bengali, maha. Maha prasad, maha prasad. Prabhuji, maha prasad. Like, yeah, really? This is on the plate? Usually those plates are sold, so you wouldn't. Unless you have a friend who's a pujari who's snapping them off the plate after the offering. What you get at the shop is, the other 10,000 they cooked. So it's prasadam for sure. Offered to the deity, no doubt. Okay. Um, mm, mm. So Shannon says, I learned by learning what to do, not learning what not to do. Yeah. Shannon, it's so, how should we describe it? For someone who likes to follow rules and likes to tell other people to follow rules, when somebody new moves in the temple, that's their target. They're just like, it's a feast for them because they love to do that. Yeah, you're right. It's, for most people, that's not going to work. Um, and I think a lot of what we do, it's just if you've been around a while, it just makes sense. So you want to do it, or you naturally will do it. Hmm. Mhm. Yeah. Balaram also gets intoxicated with honey, right? Uh, mm. So Gabriela says, yeah, well, if you have to teach rules and regulations, especially if they're working in the deity department, or there's specific ways to do things, which is understandable. This is how we clean the altar, and this is how we do this and that. It's different because it's not personal. It's not like this is how you put on your kopans, your underwear. That's different. It's such a. First, you move in the temple. If you're a brahmachari, it's bad enough they shave your head. 'Cause at least for us in those days, everybody had long hair, and then they give you a new set of underwear, which like is not comfortable. It's like, why do I have to wear this? Yeah, brahmachari. It's like a chastity belt, right? Yeah. For Indians, it's like whatever. You know, you're used to it. You see all the sadhus wearing, call it Brahmin underwear. It's just like normal. But for Westerners, it's like, whoa, what happened? What am I doing here? Yeah. Okay. So it looks like we ran out of time. I think we got 3 done at this rate. We are on page 12 out of 38. Well, we're making some progress. Let's do one more. You want to do one more? Want to stay late?
Yes, please.
I can go all day, actually. We'll go a little longer. Prabhupada inspecting the temple, 1973, San Diego. When Prabhupada first entered the temple, Bhaktidas took him to see every room in the temple. The entire temple, inside and out, had recently been freshly painted and everything cleared, cleaned. See, AI is not that smart. Practically, there was not a speck of dust to be found. Prabhupada put his hands on the ledges looking for dirt. Like they do in the military? Take a white glove and rub it. See if it's clean. Yeah, Prabhupada did that. If you want to check if a temple is clean, I do this because I'm like crazy. I go in the temples and I see if there's dust on the ledges of the frames of the paintings. And if there isn't, I go, good. This means this temple is being cleaned really well. Because temples that aren't cleaned well, they have dust on the paintings, especially the top of the paintings. So when you go to your temple, bring a cloth and check it out. And if they're dirty, you can clean them. And that will upgrade the cleanliness of your temple. and you'll get bonus points when you go back to Godhead. If they have any question about you, you could say, but I cleaned the dust off the frames of the paintings in the temple. You should let me in. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada put his hands on the ledges looking for dirt. The last room he visited was the book room, the room where his books for distribution on Sankirtan were stored. The books were well organized and arranged. Prabhupada was so happy to see this that he embraced Bhaktidas, the temple. I have to put that he's the temple president. That he embraced Bhaktidas, comma, the temple president, because you wouldn't know, and said, "Thank you very much." Bhaktidas fell at his feet with folded hands and said, "No, Srila Prabhupada." Thank you very much. I'm going to put that you in italics because that's how he said it. He said, "No, Srila Prabhupada, thank you very much." Bhaktidas related, "Until that moment, my life's dream was for Srila Prabhupada to smile at me once. What can be greater for a disciple than knowing what he did pleased his spiritual master? Than knowing that what he did. What can be greater for a disciple than knowing that what he did? I don't know. Than knowing what he did. What is it? We have two English editors, Dhanaraj and Michael. Is it knowing what he did or knowing that what he did? Knowing that what he did pleased his spiritual. What can be greater for a disciple than knowing that what he did pleased his spiritual master, or knowing what he did?
Both of them work grammatically, but knowing that what he did seems more specific and poignant to the point you're trying to make.
Okay. So you agree with Grammarly? What do I need you for? I have Grammarly. It says everything. And there should be a question mark at the end of that because it's a question, right? Or it's a rhetorical statement. What can be greater for a disciple than knowing what he did please his spiritual master?
Question mark. Even if it's a rhetorical question, yeah, it's still a question.
Okay, we're making progress here. Dhanaraj, you should just edit all of this
At your service, Prabhu.
when you come to Alachua.
We're down for it.
You driving down to Alachua now or what?
I wish.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I have an idea. I'll send you a message. I have an idea. If you don't get that job, I have another idea in the meantime.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, if you get desperate and you have to come. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Prabhupada said once, he said, we just want to see our spiritual master smile. And that was regarding book distribution. So it's like, what's the value of book distribution? Well, main thing is our spiritual master wants us to do it, and so we just want to see him smile. This Prabhupada was like, well, this is the order. I'm not 100% sure, but our spiritual master will smile. So, it's like, you could say, what is the benefit of doing this or that? And maybe materially speaking, you don't see it's that beneficial. But if it'll make your guru smile, do it. Right? Why go to America and spread Krishna consciousness? Nobody's going to be interested. But if it'll make your guru smile, do it, even if you fail. Because you didn't fail, because he smiled. Right? I'm writing this down. Krishna's dictating right now, I think. Isn't that nice? Even if you, that's a good one, Chaitanya Dasi. Even if you fail, if it makes your guru smile, you succeeded, right? Exactly. So, Hare Krishna. And even if you succeed and your guru's frowning, then you failed. And that succeeds should be in quotations, and failed should be in quotations. Yeah. So that's a good addition to this story. Anything, question you have on this? Um, you know, this also shows um, how dear book distribution was to Prabhupada, because a lot of clean rooms in the temple, right? But this room had the books. But the book room, that really got Prabhupada. It was all super organized. So, if you want to make Prabhupada smile, go to your local temple and say, take me to the book room. I want to organize it. Clean it up. He cleaned it up, put everything in order, these books here, these books here. And Prabhupada saw that, and he was so happy. So now we have insights how we can please Prabhupada. We can make Gornitai deities at the local trophy shop. We can go in and clean up the book room. You can go to bed tonight and pray. I pray the book room at my temple is a total mess. Then I can clean it up and make Prabhupada smile. Be such a blessing. Hare Krishna. Yeah, what a good quote. Yeah. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Rules and regulations we can teach, just not 400 a day. Maybe like one a day. You could handle one a day, right? And teach it gently and lovingly. And Prabhu, I've got another rule for you. It's your lucky day. Something like that. Although some people don't like rules. They're not like, it's not their favorite thing, rules. Okay. We should read another one. Unless you have something else to say about this. Seems like, it seems like a kind of insignificant story, but if you dig into it, it's like there's really so much there. Prabhupada, wow. Yeah, this is another point. How many devotees did Prabhupada embrace in his life? Not a lot. Right? So that really shows you how dear book distribution is to Prabhupada, right? That he would embrace. He would embrace a devotee just for organizing the book room. Wow. That says a lot, don't you think? About his connection with book distribution. Special. Yeah. So, you may not be good at book distribution. That's okay, but if you try, you can get Prabhupada to smile. And if he smiles, that's your success. If he smiles, you'll be happy. I wasn't that good in book distribution, but there's so much reciprocation. So much reciprocation. You can feel it. It's tangible. Yes. And you like Prabhupada said, you give them a book, you've given them something of value, something they can, it's like they've learned a million things in their life and they're still going to be they're going to be recycling. Prabhu, I'm not, you go on the street. We're not into recycling in the cycle of samsara. And we want to take you out of this recycling business. So this book will end your recycling, but the other books you have, they'll keep you in the recycling program. So Prabhupada said something of tangible value. So can help people a lot if you can inspire them to read it. Yeah. Okay. Let's go for another 15 minutes. If you have to leave, that's fine. I have my hand raised. How did I do that? Mystical. Okay. This is a story from San Diego in June 1972. Although I had not arrived in San Diego until 1973, the following story is well known to all the early devotees in San Diego. An Indian family, the Duvaris, invited Srila Prabhupada to their home. Dr. Duvari, an engineer, had atheistic inclinations. His wife was quite the opposite. She had faith in Krishna. Bhaktidas, the temple president at the time, Bhaktidas, the temple president at the time, was there and describes what happened. Quote, "We ate there, and then Srila Prabhupada and Dr. Duvari had a philosophical discussion. Dr. Duvari presented every variety of Western atheistic philosophy." That's not a good way to say that. Well, I don't know about every variety. Then he must have left out a few. Anyway, I have to rewrite that. Sounds like the restaurant, right? Served out every variety of atheism. I guess they're not that, maybe it's possible. How many varieties of atheism are there? There's not that many, right? So, so maybe he did serve out every variety of Western atheistic philosophy, and Srila Prabhupada countered him. The conversation began at 7:30 or 8 in the evening, and it went on and on and on. At about 11:30, it was still going on. 3 or 4 of us were sitting there silently watching Srila Prabhupada and listening. Srila Prabhupada became exasperated. Srila Prabhupada became exasperated with this man and said, "You're a fool. I have never met such a complete fool such as you before." Hare Krishna. Wow. But I've never met such a complete fool as you before. Maybe we'll say, in my whole life, sounds more dramatic. Finally, well, so if this were a radio show from the 1930s, then we'd say. So Prabhupada just yelled at him, said, "You're the biggest fool I've ever met in my life." And then the show would end. Said, "What did Dr. Tiwari do? Did he scream? Did he yell? Was he violent towards Prabhupada? Did he surrender? What did he do?" Stay tuned next week to find out. Yeah. So what do you think Dr. Tiwari did? Now that I have you on the cliffhanger, Prabhupada's telling him, "You're the biggest fool I've ever met in my life." What do you think he did? It's hard to say,
My
right?
Smile.
Mm, indirectly. Okay, I'll tell you. Dr. Devari put his head on Srila Prabhupada's feet and submitted. In other words, it's like I got to say more there. You know, he just accepted. He accepted, you know, like when sometimes if you have any piety within you and Prabhupada says you're a fool, you'll just say you're right. You know, it's just like it destroyed his false ego. Didn't it? Okay. His false ego destroyed on the spot. Just took 4 hours. Mm, yeah. So I guess he was pious. Not everyone accepted chastisement from Prabhupada. You know that? Some people would argue. How dare you call me that? One man came in. It's like, says, Swamiji, I've been working 10 years on this book. And Prabhupada goes through the book. And Prabhupada said, 10 years you're working on this book, and still there are mistakes in it. That Prabhupada was fearless. Just like, tell it like it is. So Prabhupada did his share of chastisement, and some people just surrendered to it. Mm. Since then, his entire family has become Vaishnavas, and they're still the biggest supporters of the San Diego Temple. Mm. Yeah. Bhaktidas continues. When we came back from the Indians' home, it was about midnight. But Prabhupada was energized. The first thing he said to me was, Bhaktidas, how was I? I said, you were perfect, Srila Prabhupada. He smiled broadly. Then he sat down with Shyamsundar to have philosophical discussions because they were writing a book. So Prabhupada was so fired up, he just stayed up. He gets fired up by preaching, as we all do. You like that story? That's nice. Sometimes I go out at night to do a program and I could fall asleep. I could just like call it quits. I'm just going to sleep now. Forget the program. But I can't because the program's scheduled. So I go out half asleep, yawning all the way. You ever yawn like every 20 seconds? That ever happened to you? So like every 20 seconds to the program, I'm yawning. And then when we come back at 11 at night, I'm like, buzz, buzz. I go to sleep like this. You ever do that? You go to sleep like you just drank caffeine or something. Yeah, that's the nature of giving Krishna consciousness. So here we see Prabhupada at midnight. He's on fire. Let's work. He's working on a book, spiritual dialecticalism, spiritual dialecticalism. I forget the name. What's it called? Dialectical. Is that a word?
Dialectic
Dialecticalism.
spiritualism.
I was close. Dialectic spiritualism. Is that the name of the book? You sure? I think we're both wrong. Can I make up a word? Dialectism. Dialectic. Let's make up a word.
I have it right
Dialectical.
in front of me. It's up on my screen.
Dialectic. Oh, spiritualism. Okay. You got it right. Another gold star for Dhanaraj. Dialectic spiritualism, not dialectical. Okay. All right. So Prabhupada started working on that book. He was so inspired. Yeah. Okay, we have 5 more minutes. Now you're going to hear the story about the plain clothes. Devotees wearing plain clothes. This story is not even well known amongst senior Prabhupada disciples. It's just that I know it because I was at the temple. So, my dear devotees, after you read this book, you're going to know stories that no one else knows. And you can give class and tell these stories, and everyone's going to go, wow, that's amazing. Where did you hear that story? And you're going to pull the book out and say, I heard it, read it in this book. And then you're going to sell 100 books on the spot, right? Is that the good plan? The San Diego devotees had an enthusiastic traveling Sankirtan party. They traveled in what looked like or was a milk truck with paintings on the outside advertising the Krishna book. At this time, Sankirtan was done in devotional clothes. Of course, some devotees don't like that name, devotional clothes. But anyway, it was used. I could just say that it was done in dhotis and saris, dhoti and sari. But this presented a problem. The best Sankirtan spots were the malls. But it was actually illegal to distribute books in malls. So we would try to hide from security as best we could. But if we're walking around a mall with, not walking with a dhoti, I said, but walking around the mall with a dhoti, or sorry, not with one, wearing one, right? Right, Dhanaraj? I wouldn't walk around a mall carrying a dhoti, I would wear it. If we're walking around a mall wearing a dhoti, or sorry, and I wouldn't wear a sorry, I'd wear a dhoti, just so you know. Security can see you from a mile away. So we didn't usually last very long in the mall before security found us and asked us to leave. Since the malls at that time were by far the best places to distribute books, the devotees thought, what if we wear regular clothes? Then we won't be so noticeable to the security, and we might even be able to distribute books all day and not be noticed. They were right, but something else happened as an unexpected byproduct. More people were stopping and more people were taking books. People felt more comfortable speaking to someone dressed like them. Plus, when devotees approached them, they didn't know in advance why the devotee was stopping because the devotee wasn't dressed in religious garb. So, more people would more people would stop and more people would take books. The result is that their book distribution scores doubled. When news of this got to other temples, it caught on and book distribution increased. But Kirtan Ananda Swami was strongly opposed to wearing Western dress. He felt that while wearing wigs, and we would wear wigs because we were all shaved up with Sika, so that didn't work for hiding from security. He felt that while wearing wigs and regular clothes, the devotees were reverting back. Not reverting back. That's That's redundant. Devotees were reverting to their hippie tendencies, something that Prabhupada was always concerned about. So a debate ensued in Prabhupada's presence about the pros and cons of wearing regular dress on Sankirtan. Kirtan Ananda Swami pushed his point, and his point seemed convincing, even to Prabhupada. Kurandar Prabhu, head of the North American BBT at that time, told Prabhupada that we will do whatever Prabhupada wants us to do, but if we stop wearing Western dress, the book distribution scores will drop by 50%. That solved that controversy immediately. Prabhupada authorized the wearing of Western dress as long as, or we could say if, make it shorter, wearing a Western dress if the devotees dress like ladies and gentlemen. Prabhupada even validated this practice in a purport in the Srimad Bhagavatam stating how Prahlad Maharaj infiltrated his classroom undercover. And here's the quote. The greater demons like Hiranyakashipu are always prepared to chastise the Vaishnavas, and they try to make arrangements so the Vaishnavas will not come to sell their books and preach Krishna consciousness. Thus, what was done by Hiranyakashipu long, long ago is still being done. This is the way of materialistic life. Demons or materialists do not at all like the advancement of Krishna consciousness, and they try to hinder it in many ways. Yet the preachers of Krishna consciousness must go forward in their Vaishnava dress or any other dress for the purpose of preaching. Chanaka Pandit says that if an honest person deals with a great cheater, it is necessary for him to become a cheater also, not for the purpose of cheating, but to make his preaching successful. Sankirtan was so enlivening to Srila Prabhupada that when he visited the temple in 1973, he had, check this out, Hare Krishna. It's so interesting. Sankirtan was so enlivening to Srila Prabhupada that when he visited the temple in 1973, this is San Diego, he had the temple president, Bhaktidas, drive him to all the places devotees, all the places where, how do we say this? Where devotees were distributing books. He really liked seeing them on Sankirtan. They drove around and Prabhupada wanted to see them distributing books. And there's examples of this when Prabhupada was at the airport, leaving somewhere, and devotees would distribute books. And he would be watching them. He loved to watch it. And he'd love to talk to them. Who's taking the books? Where are they from? Like that. So if you distribute books, maybe Prabhupada's watching you. He liked to talk to book distributors. It was like, that was his main service. Okay. So now you have the story of wearing regular clothes on Sankirtan. Any questions on that? Vaishnava attire. Okay. How about that? Vaishnava attire. Well, that's controversial now, right? Is there such a thing as Vaishnava attire? Is that Bengali dress of the 1500s? It's not really. Vaishnava attire is tilak, neck beads. Haha, Vaishnava attire. I was going to write a book on Vaishnava attire. It would be quite funny. You have a devotee with a dhoti and a t-shirt. Then you have a devotee with a kurta and pants. Then you have a devotee with no shirt and kurta, no shirt and a dhoti, and the dhoti's rolled up to his knees. Or then you have no shirt but a chadar. The chadar, this is a Mayapur look, the chadar and a rolled up to your knees, dhoti. Then you have the devotee with shaved head and sika. Then you have the devotee with long hair and sika. Then you devotee with shaved head on the side in Sika. You know, like what's the standard now, you know? Hare Krishna. It's all about, ISKCON's all about fashion now, right? You know, my little joke, if you don't have a beard and earrings, you can't lead kirtan in the kirtan mela. You know? That's what it's coming to. Hare Krishna. All right. So, what we see from this Leela is how Prabhupada is practical. And he was just concerned the devotees would be affected by dressing in Western dress, dressing like hippies and then acting like hippies. He was afraid of that. So he was, so he was willing, he, um, he wanted assurance it wouldn't be a problem. This seems kind of funny to all of you, right? Doesn't it? Like how could wearing, a t-shirt and jeans like put you into Maya? Well, that's what I wear every day. And I'm only half in Maya. So how could it put you into full Maya? I must be doing pretty good. Yeah. Wow, I should try wear a kurta and a dhoti. Maybe I'll be in completely out of Maya. Yeah. That it was like Prabhupada is reverting to hippie mentality because we're wearing wigs and like the whole thing. So, but when he was assured that wasn't what's happening, and when he heard that it's increasing book distribution by 50%, immediately, okay, do it. So he's practical. Yeah. So he was, he's concerned about, what it shows. He's concerned about devotees' well-being. That's what it shows, right? Okay, we're going on Sankirtan and doing all these things, yeah. But what about you? We don't want you. We don't want the soldiers to get killed while they're trying to save other people. So he's concerned about the devotees. So that's a good point, isn't it? So many good points have come today that I didn't originally write. Thank you for listening. It's helping me. And yeah, braided sika. No braided sikas. You have to tie them up. Otherwise, there's a planet for braided sika wearers. They tie your sika to a tree and you have to live there for 10 lifetimes. You didn't hear about that? It's in the 5th canto. Only kidding. Yeah. That's a tradition, traditionally you tie your sika up. Yeah. Did you know, ladies, that during Prabhupada's time, 101% of the women covered their heads? Did you know that? Yeah. Yes. Prabhupada liked it. Yeah. Did you know that during Prabhupada's time, no women wore makeup? Did you know that? Absolutely zero. And if they did, it was like, oh my God, is she ever in Maya? I think they wore it for Rath Yatra. I think they dressed up for Rath Yatra, some big festival, but ordinarily no. They were kind upon the brahmacharis. Hare Krishna. Maybe for Sankirtan they did. I don't know. I didn't really pay attention so much, but I just know that it was uncommon. And some devotees say, can it ever be like that again? Well, next time a pure devotee comes around, yeah. So next time someone comes around like Prabhupada, yeah, it could be like that. He inspired us so much. We're like, just like whatever, do whatever. Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you for spending extra time. I'll go to Srila Prabhupada. I don't know next week what's going to happen because on Tuesday I'm going to Dallas. And I think I'm giving Bhagavatam class every day. So, and I think their Bhagavatam class starts at 7, which is 8 o'clock here, Eastern Standard Time. So either I will just record it. I can open up Zoom and just, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever days, I will tell Radhapriya. Or probably they will televise it and we can just send a link, which would be easier for me. So that's the plan right now. And I will return next Monday. And Hare Krishna to all of you. Stay out of Maya. Take shelter of the holy name, Prabhupada's books, and give Krishna to others. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for today. Hare Krishna.
You're welcome. Jai
Mahatma
Prabhupada.
Maharaj ki
All glories
jai.
to Prabhupada. Go Prabhupada.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai
Enjoy,
Gurudev.
enjoy Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Bye.